Hello, I am so glad that you decided to stop by and see what I am up to today. So actually today this is going to be a really fun video because I've got some really cool things planned. I get it all through BoxyCharm, and so I have like an ongoing subscription with them. I pay for 3 months up front, and it's like $111 or something, and they send me over $1,000 worth of makeup. It's absolutely amazing, but I like the skincare products so much more. My skin has really been improving since I've started picking up with this skincare routine. In fact, today I decided to wear this sweater because, to tell you the truth, I'm breaking out on my neck. It didn't really start happening until I had started talking about the sexual abuse and everything, and my stress levels, they can get so high sometimes. And so unfortunately, when I get really stressed, this is the one place that likes to break out. And what really stinks about it is if I did not have the skincare products and everything that I do have that I get from BoxyCharm, and I save so much money by doing it that way, it would have caused my neck to blow up, guys, to blow up. I am not beyond telling you guys about this. I am a human. This is a problem of mine, and I know that there are other people who have this problem. What can I do? Well, again, BoxyCharm has really done a lot for me, but a skincare routine is going to really help you to keep this under control. Although, you know, it's a process. It's going to take probably like several months before it decides to clear up, but that's okay. And so, yeah, I've got some terrible stuff on my neck. So anyhow, today I have got this amazing piece of devil food cake that I have already been eating on. It's devilishly good. And we're gonna watch Bernie while we modestly do our makeup. Look, I'm gonna get real, because when we're in the church house, the sad thing is, it is the church that is so quick to trust. Even when they know that someone is guilty, even when they know that someone has done something they ought not do, they are so quick to forgive. God does not expect his people to get run over, and that is exactly what that is. You know what, guys? We are to judge people by their fruits. He said that a good tree could not have one bitter fruit. Killing someone is a bitter fruit. Trying to use the word of God, and someone who has their eyes set on God and your position when you stand behind that pulpit, and your authority and your confidence that someone has in you as a human being and as a pastor and as a second dad or whatever that might be, and you abuse that in the name of Jesus, it is better for a millstone to be tied about your neck. I have not done too much talking about this mess because it is difficult for me. It has been 3 years. And for those of you who think that I was selfish, or maybe that I was quick to jump the gun, again, I'm going to remind you, this was 3 years ago, almost to the day. So work out your own salvation through fear and trembling. This is mine, and I'm just fine taking the Lord's direction. So when we walk into a church house, we need to look modest, because honestly, to tell you the truth, it's the church house that you got to look out for. Because if a church house is going to protect a man who has killed somebody, even a man who has abused his position behind the pulpit, and they are going to let that slide, God's not in that. That was a bitter fruit. He wants us to look at the fruit. He wants to see if it's bitter, because again, God said a good tree cannot have even one bitter fruit. And to try to take somebody's eyes off of God for your sinful flesh and for your sinful desires, and then say that you did nothing wrong and continue to preach the gospel, guys, we're going to get into this next week. I'm going to be talking more about the sexual abuse, but let's put that to the side and let's go ahead and get started and do some makeup, eat some devil's food cake, and watch Bernie. If you didn't get to check it out, I did some car karaoke with Jack Black, aka Bernie. It was way too much fun. It is a really good time. Love lifted me, and to tell you the truth, Jack Black, he's got a good voice. He really does. I had way too much fun.
From the waters lifted me, now safe am I.
Okay, so right away, as the movie opens up, they automatically show you Bernie because they want to start setting up his character. And so Bernie's in a classroom and it's full of people who are going to college to learn how to be funeral directors. Bernie says that it's not right to call people morticians in today's age and stuff because that's just not the word to use. Sure. And so we'll be referring to that in this movie as a funeral director. Bernie is really sweet. I want to respect him. I think it's just contagious. For whatever reason, I want to respect Bernie. So again, the school teacher is introducing Bernie, and he is saying things like he's overqualified, that he's an artist at what he does. He cares very much for the way that he presents a body, you know, to the funeral home and to the family.
It's very important to remove any unwanted nasal, ear, or facial hair.
He wants to be as respectful as he absolutely can. And so he's teaching things like little detail counts. You have to make sure that you go over and beyond.
You can never be too vigilant in the lookout for that one stray rogue hair.
So the family is in no way disrespected, you know, that they're going to be really pleased with the way the body turns out. And I heard in a part of the movie that somebody could have literally died from a car accident. They could have been like decapitated or something terrible could have happened to their body. But somehow Bernie was a magician because he would literally put them back together even if they were in different pieces. He would try to make them as presentable as they could so that the family could actually have an open casket.
Perfect expression of the mouth would be relaxed, natural, with a little bit of a smile. Can't have them looking unhappy to be there.
And get to view that family member as they once remembered them, even though the state that they died in was so terrible. I mean, he shows things about how to put on just enough makeup.
Then, after a foundation mixed with massage cream to prevent dehydration.
Yeah, because you know how when you go and you see your loved one at the funeral home, how they seem to have on way too much foundation, and like the second day that you go to visit, foundation and everything at that point is just starting to come off. There are places where it's missing. I mean, I'm not trying to be morbid, but even my dad had some places where I could see gray, and that wasn't very good. But Bernie, he paid attention to those things, and that was what made Bernie who he was, because it wasn't just in the funeral home that he paid attention to detail. He paid attention to everything in life.
Bernie was a very charismatic man, a loving person, and he had the ability to make the world seem kind.
So people were just drawn to him all the time. And because of that personality, for too long, he was about the most popular man in Carthage.
And that's why people loved Bernie, was because he was so respectful. And he did it in such a respectful way that even when the situation was super bad, you just could not help but calm down, because Bernie was like a walking version of Morgan Freeman's voice. Okay, so now people from the town are giving character statements about Bernie and what it is to like know Bernie.
Good with names, good with questions. He could remember if your daughter was at Texas and your son was at A&M, he'd remember that and he'd ask you questions about those kids. Just made you feel real good about yourself.
He has so many character witnesses. People cannot tell you enough good things about Bernie. Everyone that was in the town of Carthage, Texas, completely, fully, and utterly respected him, to the point that the man could even commit murder, and it wouldn't matter. They would still say after he confessed that he didn't do it. This is how much respect that he earned. And there was even a lady who had said that
if the people in Carthage were to make a list of those people that they thought would get to heaven, I am sure that Bernie would be right at the top of the list.
They said that he had like a super magnetic personality, and that he was really well liked, and that he was very popular. They even said that the town of Carthage within itself was just one of those places. Everybody knew everybody. It was Everybody trusted everybody. It was one of those places you could leave your door unlocked, and you could probably leave and go on vacation and come back and everything would still be in your house. It was one of those places. I mean, in the church, he was over the music. He did theater at the school. He volunteered for theater. He did so many different things. He was the funeral director. So many people trusted him. So for that reason, you know what you're going to do. People just couldn't wrap their heads around what was getting ready to happen to just be the truth. It's the next contour palette. I'm just going to use this to define certain places. I actually love this so much. It helps to add some shadow to your face. So Bernieita decided to call and ask and see if he couldn't get a funeral home job. And so the funeral home director did not know who Bernieita was. And
he called from Louisiana, and I hired him over the phone, not fully knowing what to expect.
Anyhow, he said he felt like he had won the jackpot because he did everything so professional-like.
Boy, I hit the jackpot with that guy. He's the most qualified young man I ever met.
And he said that there wasn't anything in the funeral home that he was not able to do, whether it was from burials to singing to arranging to preparing the bodies, embalming. It didn't matter. Bernieita, he was just a jack of all trades, you know. And also, he would absolutely know what to do. You know, when things went wrong, there was this one scene where he was at a funeral and the person that was supposed to sing just didn't come up. Bernie was one of those, like me. Literally, we always have a song in our heart. And so if something goes wrong, we're always there to take over the situation. At least with things like that, I can do. And so Bernie decides, to look at the paper. He sees that the man's not coming up. These people are grieving. Something's got to give. So he runs up there, he gets on his piano, and he starts singing Amazing Grace. And before you know it, everything just starts to be okay. Everybody loved Bernie. And, you know, even the widows in town adored Bernie. At this time, he had not met Miss Nugent yet because her husband was still alive. And honestly, he was not very liked, but he was more liked than what Miss Nugent, Margie was her name, because nobody liked her. Oh my gosh, they just could not stand Margie.
And if it was said that he was kind of disliked in the way he did business, you'd have to say that she was literally hated.
They said that the man was the type of guy, he was just investing in everything. He had opened a bank. He would rule with an iron fist. But when Margie came in after he died, there was a part where they said that one of the sisters wanted to donate some of the money of the families to the local church, but she wouldn't do it because she totally disagreed with the way that the pastor would wear Bermuda shorts on his day off. So no, she wasn't going to give the church any money. Oh no, she hoarded money. She kept it to herself. And honestly, the more cruel she could be to somebody, the happier she was.
She wasn't friendly. She really wasn't. And there are people in town, honey, that would have shot her for $5.
And this was because ultimately I feel like she was just a miserable person on the inside. So when her husband died and Bernieita had done his funeral, Bernie made her feel so good and so young, so alive again, because she even says at one point, nobody had been that good to her in 50 years. He was always so kind to the widows because it didn't matter who the widow was. Bernie himself didn't have a respecter of persons. And so after the husbands had already passed on to the other side, Bernie decided that he would go over to the widow's house about a week after the funeral was over.
He was great with the DLOLs. That's what we all call the dear little old ladies. You know, all the widows in town had crushes on Bernie.
You know, that was always the hardest time. It always is for anybody. You don't even have to be a widow. Because a week after a funeral goes away, you get so much attention, like right there with everything at first. Because the funeral's going on and everybody's giving their condolences, and then all of a sudden, boom, nobody's calling. And in this time, Bernie felt that it would be important to go by and give the widows, you know, a bouquet of flowers or something, some chocolates, whatever it took, just to lift their spirits and let those widows know that he was thinking about them and that he hadn't forgot. And so every widow around town had just fallen in love with Bernie. But Miss Nugent, she was different. And this, I believe, was because Bernie had heard how wicked Miss Nugent really was.
She was just a mean, old, hateful bitch. Hey, there's just no other way to put it.
And he just didn't believe that somebody could be that evil. He just didn't believe it. So he decided to go ahead and take a bouquet of flowers over to Miss Nugent's house, and he knocks on the door with the bouquet of flowers, and she opens the door, and when she does, he says, "I would just like to give you my condolences, let you know I haven't forgotten about you." And then all of a sudden she shuts the door in his face and she took the flowers and shut the door in his face. Oh my gosh, it was so terrible. But he was not giving up. So, I think it was a week later or something, Bernie comes over, and this time he's got a basket of soaps and bubble bath or something. And he's also got a box of chocolate cupcakes that are supposed to be special or something. Anyhow, this time she actually invites him in. And so he accepts the invitation, and he is all too excited to go into Miss Nugent's house. And because this is a typical behavior for her. And then all of a sudden they're sitting on the couch. And so next scene you see him, and he's drinking a cup of hot tea. And he's telling Miss Nugent about his life and how when he was young and he was in school, how he wanted to be an evangelist and how he wanted to help save the souls of the children that he went to school with because they were bad, they were naughty, they were riding motorcycles, they were smoking cigarettes and drinking and stuff, and he wanted to help them to turn their eyes on God. And honestly, I know we live in a very cliche world and stuff, and I know that, I'm laughing and doing all these funny skits, but guys, at the end of the day, I wholeheartedly believe with my entire heart, and I will keep pushing till the very end. Everything in this life is to bring focus and glory to the Lord Jesus Christ, no matter what it is. And this is my life, and this was Bernie's life, and this is just what we do. And at the end of the day, you stand alone before Jesus Christ. So again, to each their own salvation, this is just mine. And apparently it was Bernie's, Bernie ended up taking it in a different direction than I would have, because honestly, I don't have a violent bone in my body. No. I just kind of like to go over and blend all this out, so I've not got too much. I'm more all about natural makeup and not quite so bam in your face and stuff. I really have, since I was young, I've always liked the lighter colors and everything, the more natural stuff, because I believe that a woman can be naturally beautiful. She doesn't need all of that makeup. I mean, we can be modest, but at the end of the day, I think it's just more flattering. And I think that if you are single and you're looking for a man, he'll respect you the more modest you are. I know that when I was dating before I got married, I had a lot of compliments on the way that I dressed and the way that I looked, because I didn't like to wear anything low cut. Nobody has ever seen me in anything low cut, and the only person that has ever seen my chest would definitely be my spouse. You're going to get better men that way, a better quality man that way, instead of going out to the bars, wearing, just being like everybody else. I like to set myself apart. And I did. I got a lot of compliments on it. And that, I guess, is one thing that I remember, because again, if you haven't watched it, one of my very favorite people in the whole wide world is Mary Tyler Moore. And I want to give everybody that story, because this is who I was when I was growing up. I didn't have any friends. Mary Tyler Moore was my best friend. So check that out if you haven't. Okay, look, guys, I'm really going to have to apologize for my dog snoring. I really can't help it. If I put her in another room, she's just going to bark and bark and bark. Nobody's here. I'm here by myself. What am I going to do? So I'll try and do the best that I can. Oh, you know what? It was really fun. Jack, he would always come up with these creative ideas, like he was working at the funeral home, and, to help the funeral home make a little bit of extra money, he came up with the idea to add a white dove as an extra for like $150 for the people, to show like symbolism, passing from one world to the next world. And it ended up doing so well. You know, he ended up selling a lot of those, and they would release it out, and it would be so sweet, and all the people would just turn their heads as they watched the dove fly away. It really is precious, but honestly, if you look at it, it's just another service like anything else is. You know, like buying a car or what have you. Everybody's just trying to make a living. Oh, and then there was this one part where he was trying to sell these people on caskets and stuff. So he's like walking around the back of the funeral home, you know, where they have the caskets and everything set up. Well, it was an elderly man and his wife, and I'm gonna say that they were probably maybe in their 70s or something, and so they're trying to go ahead and buy the things for their funeral. So when it come to the man, he looked over and he saw this one casket, and he was like, oh, that's really great. I'll take that one. And Jack Black did not want to sell him that one because that one...
Yeah, this is fine.
I see.
Yeah.
Now, these composite wood with cloth we sell mostly to the county to bury the unclaimed.
Because that one was a composite wood. And he says, no, I don't know if you would really want this one. These caskets are the ones that are used for the unclaimed. We send to the county for the ones who don't have anyone to claim them. So he says also, he said, sir, how tall are you? And he says, oh, I'm 6'2". And he says, oh, that might not work very well.
These economy boxes are not very large. We may have to make a leg adjustment to get a proper fit.
Leg adjustment?
Well, not necessarily break the legs, but definitely bend
No.
the hip.
No, I won't have it.
Well, he said, because the boxes don't come that big. So we might not have to necessarily break his legs, but we might just have to position them in a way. And she says, oh, no, I don't want to do that. I'll just take this one. You know, he just had a way of doing it. And it was so funny. Bernie is so funny. Oh, my goodness. But people respected him so much. I just like to take and blend the blush in just a little bit. Now, not a lot, because I'm not really trying to cover it up. I'm just trying to blend. That's all. He also said, if you get the composite casket versus this casket over here, it doesn't come with a warranty. And she's like, oh, but what would we need a warranty for?
Well, with our better caskets, we guarantee that your remains will be untouched by rainwater, pesky insects, burrowing animals searching for food.
Hungry, burrowing bugs looking for food. That is so awful to tell somebody. And he did it straight-faced and so caring-like. I mean, he was just so fabulous. I've already ate it. I'm going to have to go get some more. Okay, so this is Bye Bye Pores It Cosmetics Pressed Translucent Powder. And it's really cool because it just puts this beautiful blur to your skin. It really, really does. Helps all of that just kind of set into place. I absolutely love it. I can't go without it. I'm going to have to order me some more though. So no one liked Miss Nugent. In fact, there was this one part in the movie where a lady said that anybody would have probably shot her for like $5. Well, and then somebody was all like, oh, she would rip you a new 3-bedroom, 2-bath, double-wide trailer. What is that even? So now they're at this point where they're trying to set up character for Miss Nugent. And you're starting to learn about Miss Nugent's family. Miss Nugent's family, I guess, was greedy. And they were probably as wicked as she is. And everything was all about money. I think her grandson and her granddaughters ended up trying to sue her, you know, right before she ended up passing. And they never wanted anything to do with her. They didn't call. Nobody even knew that she was really dead to really look for her for like 9 months. This is how disliked she was. You know, and honestly, if her family did have anything to do with her, it was really only about her money. I mean, Bernie could just do anything. He could come over to your house. He could make you a set of curtains. He could do your garden. He could, you know, hang your wallpaper. Or he could just sit down and talk to you and make you feel good about yourself. You know, guys, I really love this stuff right here. If you can see it, it's called the Cream Shop. This is actually some translucent setting powder. But the cool thing about it is that it smells like a cake. And I am pretty sure, even though that I got this in my BoxyCharm, I am going to be buying this again. I think I found it on eBay for less than 17 bucks. You should check it out because I cannot get enough of my face smelling like a delicious birthday cake. This is delicious. They've got some that smell like banana. I love the way that my face smells. I mean, even the book that I was using to take notes for this video smells like a watermelon. I love scented things. I love being childlike. I really do. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it says in the Bible that we're supposed to liken ourselves to the state of a child if we want to inherit the kingdom of God. But, you know, there's a right way and a wrong way to do everything in this life. If my cake face powder makes me happy, to each their own, it makes me happy. So the funeral director walks in at one point and he says, Bernie, you are just the bravest man in town. He's like, there ain't no way under the sun.
You sure about that?
That anybody would be brave enough to take out Miss Nugent. He's like, at least she has some money. And at one point he's suggesting that he could have her buy with her money some Dom Perignon champagne and get her a little tipsy so that he could get lucky. But honestly, he says, like, oh my goodness, no, you know. But then there was some ladies gossiping and they said, you know, that last trip that he took.
On that trip to Belize, they stayed in the same room. And you know they saw each other in their underwear.
They only had one room. They didn't sleep in separate rooms. And then because everybody knows everybody, they were all like, oh, somebody saw Miss Nugent. And she was buying some lingerie.
And I know for sure that when she went to Shreveport to get some sexy lingerie at that Doors lingerie shop, she got herself a see-through nightgown that showed her breast.
And it didn't have this up here in it. Oh my goodness. You know, I mean, it was just so funny. It was scandalous and they were gossiping all over the place. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this right here looks like blush, but it's not. It's actually an illuminator. So I put my blush on earlier, but I'll wait to put on this afterwards. Of my translucent powder, I want to put this on the top. It just makes it really pretty and gives me like a luminous kind of sheen to it, but it's not loud because it's a soft color. Again, I love soft colors, guys. They're beautiful. Oh, my face smells so good. You have got to get you some of that powder. The Cream Shop. The Cream Shop. Okay, so I also heard that Bernie had a problem with money because apparently it was not a money problem like that. He took advantage of Miss Nugent and took all of her money and went to the casino. This was not Bernie's problem. You got to remember, Bernie was such a good person and he was so liked for a reason. He was so popular for a reason. And one of those reasons was because when Bernie had Miss Nugent's money, he would go on shopping sprees. And he wasn't going on shopping sprees for himself. Oh no, he was going on shopping sprees and he was buying other people things. He was giving away that money. He was helping to build the community. He bought some girls like this big gigantic playhouse. He even went and bought people cars. He helped a guy open a boot business. He helped a struggling restaurant, I think. I mean, he just poured so much money into the community. He gave the church $100,000. He just did so much. Some of this was after Miss Nugent died. Again, you have to remember, with God, there is no respecter of persons. It doesn't matter how nice, you know, that Bernie was. The fact remains, he did something he shouldn't have done. Later, I'm getting ready to tell you. It's not come up to that quite yet, but it's getting there. It's going to get there. So Bernie had a radio show, and this radio show was really interesting. It was every Friday, and he would go on and he would talk about the recently deceased. And they said that it didn't even matter, like, if that person was the town drunkard, if they were known because people didn't like them because maybe they gossiped too much, they might have been into drugs. It didn't matter. Bernie always knew the right way to say it to make you feel like that person was somehow a human being. Why? Because Bernie didn't have respecters of persons. But apparently the people around him, everybody did. Something was not right with Bernie, though. Something was really not right. But he would make all those people look like they were just really great people. Bernie was so respected for so many more reasons than one. He was like the only person in history, though he had confessed to what he had done, they wasn't hearing it. They didn't care. Bernie was a good man, and that's all that mattered.
I just heard Bernie killed your sister Margie.
Oh, honey, no. Marjorie's in a nursing home over in Temple.
No, she is in a deep freeze going to Dallas.
You know, because everybody loved Bernie. There was no way he could have done anything wrong.
Shock! I could not believe Bernie did this.
Nothing. It's like the woman said, if they had had a list of all the people who was going to get in heaven in Carthage, that Bernie would be on the top of the list through and through. I'm telling you, he would have been. So at this point, they're going everywhere together. They're going to theaters. They're going to, live dramas. They're going, out to eat and all these lavish things. They do it first class the whole way, massages in different countries. I mean, just having a wonderful time. But what it all came down to is that Bernie was making Miss Nugent feel like she was a human being. He was making her feel like she was young. And there was only one person in the whole world who had done that, and it happened to be Bernie. I love highlighter. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I do. And I don't go overboard on it because I'm getting ready to tone it down just a little bit. But I honestly love my highlighter. And then there was this really funny part with Matthew McConaughey. And he was talking about Bernie. And he was saying that he thought that he was just really effeminate.
I'm sorry to stop you. Are these all done with that? What is that called? Chainsaw? All chainsaw. How do you do that?
He said that he noticed that when he would touch men, that the touch just lingered a little bit longer. And for those of you who don't know what effeminate means, because not everybody knows what effeminate means. I've had some people ask me when I say that word what it meant. It would be a male who has female characteristics. And in Bernie's case, he had soft hands. He had a soft touch. He was very caring.
So you got your associate's degree in mortuary science at McNeese State?
Yes, sir.
Play any ball over there?
No, sir. I wanted to concentrate on my studies as much as I loved football and whatnot.
He was like that girlfriend that was just super nice. He was so interested, a good listener. He was not your typical man. So at one point, Matthew McConaughey says,
There was always talk about Bernie being a little light in the loafers.
That he knew for a fact, that there was two people that he had had a relation with, and they, though, were heterosexual, because in a town like Carthage, that is just unheard of. And believe me, the more down south you get, yes, the more unheard of it would be. But anyhow, everybody was talking about it, but they said that there was a lot of women within the community that absolutely loved Bernie.
There were lots of girls in the community who would have loved to have had a date with him, but he never seemed to show much interest in that. He stayed busy all the time and was working.
And he just didn't have time for it. But when he met Mrs. Nugent, which is like so much older than he is, he had a relationship with her. But nobody could put their finger on it. You couldn't really say that he was, but you couldn't say that he wasn't. But Miss Nugent, you could see it in her eyes. There was something about Bernie. And then all of a sudden, she starts to turn sour. Something terrible goes wrong. And now she's treating Bernie as badly as what she treated everybody else.
So you just pop up whenever it's convenient for you. Just when you think it's fine for you, you come. Well, fine.
Even though Bernie is still being good to her.
I can understand chewing each bite of some food 25 times like chicken fried steak. But I don't think you have to chew your refried beans that many times.
He still didn't want to say anything that was going to upset her. If she said jump, he said how high. And so he would answer that beeper, and wherever he was, he would be on his way. There was this one part, though.
I am not going to take part in this argument. You know I don't like you, and that's that.
I know you hate me!
No.
Like everybody else!
Basically, it was like Bernie became her property.
But then when he gets to the gate, she hit a button and the gate just closed and it locked. And at that point, he realized that there was nothing left for him.
Basically, it was like Bernie became her property.
You'll never leave me.
He was trapped and there was nowhere for him. It was the beeper, the gate, all of it, and he didn't know what he was going to do. So I was reading some stories about the real Bernie, and I'm going to put a picture up here so that you can see the real Bernie and the real Mrs. Nugent, because these people really exist. Anyhow, Bernie, he just felt like he was in prison, and honestly, he spent so long in prison that he said now that he knows what prison is, he felt like he was in prison. Miss Nugent wouldn't allow him to do anything. He was a people person. He wasn't allowed to go and do normal things. And so when I was reading some stories about the real Bernie, it said that he had honestly thought about hitting her over the head with a hammer a few weeks prior to, you know, actually doing what he did, but he didn't do it. But look, at the end of the day, there are certain boundaries as a Christian that you just cannot cross. There are so many other options. He could have left Miss Nugent. He could have done something. There are never problems. There are only solutions, but he turned to murder. And honestly, the real Bernie says he doesn't even remember picking up the gun that they had used in the yard previously, trying to shoot some armadillos as she was screaming at him. But he picks up that very same gun and he points it at Miss Nugent before they're supposed to drive away. And he shot her in the back 4 times. After he had shot her and he come back to, because he says that he blacked out, you know, and then he comes back to. And when he does, he gets on his knees and he cries, God, tell me I'll do anything that you want me to do. What did he do? He put her body in a freezer.
9 months since I had last laid eyes on Mrs. Nugent. We got into her house.
Grandma?
And this is where it would stay for 9 solid months, preserved. After they found her, it would take 2 days for them to thaw out the body just so that they could do an autopsy on her. She was so well preserved, she was able to have a regular funeral with an open casket and look like it literally just happened. Well, anyhow, Bernie decides to keep this to himself. He covers it up every which way he knows how to do.
I don't think too many of us ever ask very many questions about Mrs. Nugent, and if we did, he would always have a very plausible explanation.
So at this point, you get to meet Matthew McConaughey. This is to help highlight, it just puts that extra little touch on. Anyhow, Matthew McConaughey is standing in front of the press and he is telling them like it's a good thing about this wheel that he made up and he has in his office, and he calls it the Wheel of Misfortune. And on that wheel, he has like different numbers. I mean, there's like 20 numbers on it or something. And so he'll spin the wheel, and whatever number that lands on, the numbers stand for all of the criminals that are active at that time within that area. And so when the number lands on them, that means he's coming for you first. I mean, the minute he says that, somebody snaps a picture and he just acts like it's the best thing ever. Oh my gosh. He's just so funny in this movie. I love this movie. And so Matthew McConaughey decides that he is going to catch some criminals. In fact, it's 5 guys who are late on their child support, like really bad. And so he went and had the police department get a big Dodge new truck, set it up in a park, and say that they were going to have a free car event, that if you come and kept your hand on that car for long enough, you could win it, whoever it was, the last person standing. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Anyhow, they did. They caught all 5 of those men that day because, let's see, he said maybe a new truck would get them out of hiding. And it did. So they ended up arresting 5 of them that day. Matthew McConaughey and his crazy ideas. So at this point, Matthew McConaughey is the one that's basically taking over the whole trial. And honestly, Bernie, there was really nothing to it. He just came in and he just admitted his guilt.
I couldn't face being around her any longer, and then it just happened. I don't know. I shot her. I shot poor Mrs. Nugent 4 times.
That's all he did. He confessed to it. He cried after they ended up finding him, because 9 months after she died, the family started to get suspicious. It was her stockbroker, Lloyd, and they could not believe it because they didn't even want it to go to trial. Everybody was like, well, maybe he shouldn't get punished that much. This is when everybody's true character is coming out, because Matthew was sitting at a diner. So even though Bernie's confession was right there, he had done it, he had already admitted it, at this point, everybody is trying to find excuses about how nobody liked Miss Nugent.
Hell, Daddy Buck, you know Bernie doesn't know anything about shooting a rifle. I mean, he doesn't go hunting. He wouldn't know a deer blind from an outhouse.
There's not enough nice men in this town. Leave poor Bernie alone, Danny Buck. And we don't even think he did it.
He confessed.
Because nobody wanted Bernie to go to prison.
Danny Buck, you knew Mrs. Nugent as well as any of us did. Did you ever stop to think maybe, just maybe, Bernie did it in self-defense?
What is that about? You've got everybody taking up for this man, and they're not looking at Miss Nugent like she's a human being. Again, this is why I say, I am so glad that the Lord Jesus Christ is the one that sits on the throne, because his thoughts are higher than ours. His ways are higher than ours, and he doesn't have a respecter of persons, because even his mother Mary had to believe on him as if he were the Son of God, and she would have went to hell, and she would have died lost without him too. This is my eyeliner. So now Matthew McConaughey and everybody is in church. And so the preacher man is standing up there and he is really talking about Bernie. And he says things like, Bernie is going to need our prayers. We need to be able to forgive someone when they do something wrong. Okay, look, they're not even letting him have any consequence, guys. I mean, even in the book of Genesis, when it talks about Adam and Eve, God didn't let Adam and Eve slide. When they bit into the apple, it was point blank the way it was. They had to pay. There was a consequence for their sin. In fact, we're still paying for it today, but God did love them enough not to kill them. But there was still consequence, guys. The church don't even want to give you a consequence. They just want to let the elephant in the room still be there. We just don't talk about it. I don't like keeping my head in the sand. I don't want to be like the monkey. See no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil. That's not me. I ain't going to do it. In fact, I'm going to run towards the storm is exactly what I'm going to do, because I'm a warrior for the Lord Jesus Christ. So the preacher man is outside of the church, and Matthew McConaughey is talking to him at this point, and he's asking him why on earth he is supporting a man who shot one of his congregants in the back 4 times. And this is the case with most pastors today, because you should not sit under a passive preacher, because if the man cannot control his own home, if he cannot control the flock, oh my goodness, why on earth do you want to call that man your shepherd? He ain't got it together. He needs to resign. He needs to sit down, and he needs to do some learning himself. But the world just ain't like that. Okay, so now since Bernie has been exposed, he has, he's being strung out in court. They're going ahead. They're seizing property. All of the things that Bernie had given graciously to other people with Miss Nugent's money, at this point they were seizing it. And it was really sad, because it didn't matter what it was. They were seizing it. It didn't matter if it was a house, the church, whatever. At one point, one lady says they didn't even leave the church. I mean, come on, they could have left that. We would have even named it after her. But no, they seized every bit of it, the government did. And that's really crazy. So here we go. This is the eyeshadow palette that I'm using today. At this point, they have charged him and found him guilty, although it was very hard to do because they wanted to throw it out of court. I believe they even had to send it out of town to somebody else, because in that town he was not going to be able to have a fair trial, and they gave him a life sentence in prison. He was pretty upset. I've done some research on it, and I found out that in real life, Bernie has got out of prison. I'm thinking this might have been 6 years ago. And he is actually living with the man who directed this film. That's honestly very interesting. I am sure when that man got out of prison, they had the best church get together with some of the best fried chicken. I'm talking like a mile long. I just can't imagine what it was like for him and all those sweet widows taking care of him, making casseroles. He was in hog heaven when he got out of prison, and you better know it. He said that Miss Nugent had given him $3 million, so that would compensate for the $20,000 and all of the money that he spent after Miss Nugent had passed away. I like to take these two top colors right here and go in the side just a little bit and underneath, just to give it a little bit of a different color. And it does, not too much, just a little. And then I'm going to go back over this and blend it together. So when he went to prison, they said that he was so well liked in the prison system. He stayed mostly within like the craft center. He would just make like sweet memoirs and things for the people who had recently passed on in the town of Carthage. He still had a link to his community, but people still love Bernie. They really do. But honestly, guys, at the end of the day, this man shot this woman in the back. It didn't even have to have anything to do with the money. He shot and killed a woman. He committed murder. It says in the Bible that if you commit murder, you know, that you will not inherit the kingdom of heaven. God hates that. He abhors it. Everybody has to have consequences for their actions. Bernie had none. The fact is that everybody wanted to give him a free ticket. No, it doesn't work that way with the Lord Jesus Christ. And if the person that you are allowing to preach to you, to teach you the good news of the gospel, goes out and preys on his sheep, I know that I'm not the only one, preys on his sheep, trying to take their eyes off of God, saying that he had nothing to do with it, and then turn around and try to make it look like even though I have proof, it is still my fault, and somehow that I am the Jezebel, or I'm doing this for attention, or what have you. This is him trying to soothe his guilty conscience. My mother always told me, if you give a guilty man enough rope, he will hang himself. So either he is going to resign and actually stop preaching, and apparently he's not, or God's going to take care of it himself. Like I said, he isn't a spring chicken. I am sure that the man ain't even got 10 years left in him. But I can promise you one thing. He will have consequence for the rest of his life. If I were to find out that they are even having a VBS at their church, I will let everyone that I can know not to take their children there. This man is a sexual predator. I have proof for it. And because I have proof, I'm not afraid. So again, Bernie was proven and confessed to be a killer, but still everyone wanted to open their arms. It's like my mama used to say, if everybody was jumping off the cliff, would you? It's like basically set your emotions to the side, but that's not the way that it worked. But he did. He had a prison ministry and he did a lot of good. You know, he loved to help the people out while he was there. He showed them how to cook. All right, I hope that you guys had a wonderful time. I am literally just about done with my makeup. Now I just have to blend this a little bit. I know this is weird, but I just like to take my fingers over it and just kind of get that in. Then I'm going to take and put my mascara on, because this is a very important part, y'all. Separate it as good as you can, because honestly, you don't want spider legs. I don't remember what my mom used to call that, but people will literally go crazy and they will have like their eyelashes like sticking together. Stop it, man. Just stop it. Okay, so I want to be classy about this. Let's get them spread out as much as we can. I would love, actually, to know how to use false eyelashes. Mine wouldn't be elaborate by any means. They would just accent what I've got, but I have never been good at that. I even went and bought, like, some magnetic ones, and I just can't figure that mess out. Oh, last thing left, I want to put this lipstick on. It is Lip Infatuation. Lip Fusion Infatuation. I don't know what I don't know what the brand name is, but I love the color because I'm really into soft pinks. And this has got such a fun feeling when you put it on. I can't really explain it. It feels funny. I like the way it feels. And then I like to go back over it with just some clear gloss. Okay, there we go. This is my modest makeup look. I hope that you guys like it. And you know, honestly, this is the way that I do my makeup all the time. I am not really good with makeup, so I don't think that I could do like a bunch of makeup tutorials because you would probably always get this look. I'm not good with using too many eyeshadows. So all these eyeshadow palettes I get, I just keep collecting them. Oh my goodness, maybe one day I'll have a giveaway. So anyhow, I just want to thank you guys so much for stopping by, being a part of what I am doing. You know, come back to see me next week. Support me on what I am doing. You know, hashtag save the sheep, hashtag stop trusting, start testing. Let's put our emotions to the side and let's start looking at people's fruits. You know, look at the fruits that they bear. A good tree cannot bear not even one bitter fruit, because it does say in the Bible that in those times, perilous times shall come, and there will be wolves among the sheep. They're not going to look like wolves, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. They're going to deceive you. It's going to be counterfeit. And I wish so much that I could come with a good message. I wish so much that I could just praise God and talk about his goodness and what this man's doing and what this man's talking about. But in this world, that is just not what I can do, because we are living in the end times. This is prophesied. So I hope that you guys are really excited with your makeup. And I don't know fully what his lesson is today, but I hope that somebody learned something, and I hope that somebody out there grows for God, and I hope that you had a modestly good time, and that somebody out there has a beautiful and blessed day. Please tell me why it's all in